not accepting who I am and not accepting, um, gosh, life, who I am, the reality of the moment has caused a lot of problems because then it becomes I feel like I was a runner for a long time in my life, just running rather than sitting with a moment and letting it be okay. Um, but I've gotten to a place. Well, I got there because I mean you can't run forever. I think you just get tired. I've gotten to a place where now I'm just like, okay, this is you know this is my life. This is who I am, and I accept. I accept myself. I accept this, and there's a lot of beauty in it, and there's a lot of joy in it, and there's a lot of peace that comes from that.
Hi, this is Danae. I'm the founder of Simple Families. Simple Families is an online community for parents who are seeking a simpler, more intentional life. In this show, we focus on minimalism with kids, positive parenting, family wellness, and decreasing the mental load. My perspectives are based in my firsthand experience raising kids, but also rooted in my PhD in child development. So you're going to hear conversations that are based in research, but more importantly, real life. Thanks for joining us. Hi there. Thanks so much for tuning in. That voice you heard in the intro is Bunmi Laditan. You may also know her as the Honest Toddler. I have been reading Bunmi's writing for many years. I'm a longtime fan. So it was a real pleasure to get to speak with her today. Bunmi is an award-winning Webby-nominated writer from California who currently lives in Quebec, Canada with her family. She's contributed to the New York Times, Parenting, and the Huffington Post. Bunmi is the author of several books. Her latest due out this summer. It's called Help Me God, I'm a Parent. For our chat today, I chose a handful of my favorite poems and pieces of writing from Bunmi and had her tell us a little bit more about the inspiration for those pieces, and I shared a few reflections of my own. If you want the links to get in touch with Bunmi or to pick up one of her books, especially her new one, you can find those links in the show notes at simplefamilies.com/episode 312. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hi, Bunmi. How are you?
Good. How are you?
It is great to chat. I'm doing well. I've been excited to talk with you. It's funny. My podcast manager had reached out to your publisher to invite a different guest on, and your publisher said, no, like she can't do it, but would you like to talk to Bunmi? And my podcast manager, she's like, well, but she did suggest this other woman, and she told me your name. I'm like, yes, absolutely. Even better. Like the best
Oh,
denial I've ever gotten. So I was so
thank
excited because I
you.
didn't realize you had a new book coming out.
Yes, I do in June 28th.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
What does this period of time feel like for you right before a book comes out?
Oh man. So it's called Help Me God, I'm a Parent, and it's kind of like it's off of Dear God, the book I published last year, and it's Dear Help Me God, I'm a Parent, poems and prayers for hectic days and endless nights. So this time is kind of I don't know. I think I kind of check out a little bit because it can
Yeah.
be really stressful, but I just focus on doing what I can.
Yeah.
Just doing what I can in a consistent way, and then I let
Yeah.
that be enough.
Yes.
Like
How
life.
old how old are your kids?
They are just 16, which I can't even 15 and 16 feel so are worlds apart. They
Yeah,
are.
like
15
real
is a
grown-ups
oh
now,
my gosh,
or so they think.
I'm not okay. I hugged her the night before she turned 16. I'm like, the last 15 hugs. She's like, okay, can I go to bed? Like, you're doing a lot. I'm like, look, this is the last one. You don't understand. And I'm just gonna say the year after 15, I can't even say it, the year after 15, 12 and a half, and almost 9.
Okay, great. So my kids are
Yeah.
6 and 8, so a little bit behind you,
Oh,
but
yes.
um I feel like so tell us, I guess, where you started. Was The Honest Toddler the beginning of your public writing? Were you writing before that?
Yeah, so before I was gosh, when my oldest was little, and that's when I started kind of writing, working from home, writing from home. Um I was really submitting my writing to any place that would take me, any blog,
Yeah.
any platform, writing for free, like just let me submit on your website, and getting lots of refusals, like establish yourself first. I'm like, but how do you establish yourself and build a and just
Yeah.
like and putting it out there. But the Honest Toddler was the first time that I had an audience, I think.
Yeah. Wait, so when you were writing The Honest Toddler, was that about your oldest?
That was on my second born.
Your second. Okay.
Oh, yeah, my oldest was the kind of typical easy going firstborn, like, "Oh, this isn't why do people complain about parenting?" She would put
Right.
herself to sleep, everything like that, and then my second
I've got
born
one of
just
those too. Second
oh,
child
man.
born to be wild.
Yes, born to be wild, born to, "Oh, you think we're leaving the house at this time? Absolutely not. We are
Right.
absolutely not, because I am in
Yeah.
crisis." Like, that life.
Yeah. It's funny, my doctorate is in child development, and I had my first when I was finishing up, and my faculty advisor, who obviously knew a lot about kids, she looked at my firstborn, who was very chill and, like, easygoing, and was like, "This is how it is.
Yes.
This is how they guarantee a second," right?
Yes,
Because, like, we
it's a
wouldn't
trick.
keep procreating if that
No,
number 2 came first.
it's a trick. It's a
Right, it
trick.
is.
Nature knows what it's doing. This is a trick. It's just
Yeah.
to keep life going,
Yeah.
which is what like nature wants to like exist. So it's just to keep life
Yeah.
moving. And it's like if you had the child who makes your hair fall out first, nobody would be like, okay, let's repeat that. Nobody would do that.
Right.
But
Yeah.
since
Gotta keep us humble.
gotta keep us humble, keep us grounded.
Yeah. So you're from California originally.
Yes,
Yeah. Tell
yes,
us a little
sunny
bit. Did you
California.
spend all your youth in California?
I did. So, my parents are well, we're Nigerian. I was the first one in my family born in the U.S. in the West. My oldest brother was born in Nigeria, so I grew up first generation Nigerian American in California. Very Nigerian home, and then very like just, like different outside.
Yeah.
Super strict immigrant parents life.
Was there a large Nigerian community where you grew up, or were you kind
Yeah,
of
well,
on your own there?
Nigerians tend to be everywhere. It's so strange. We just like go everywhere. So they're not a huge one, not like where you might find like a big Spanish speaking community, but a
Mhm.
little one where we have and more I would say more like like a West African or African community. So we had our markets, things like that where you'd buy your like yams, your dried fish, your the spices specific to the foods they make, but not in the way that I was seeing a lot of Nigerians every day or Nigerian kids or anything
Okay.
like that.
So you were is it a third culture kid? Have you heard that
Yes.
expression?
I you
Okay.
know, I haven't even heard that expression, but immediately when you say it, I know
Yeah,
what you mean.
I don't know the researchers the specifics on it, but this idea that you have a different culture from your parents essentially, like
Yes.
this kind of hybrid culture.
Yes, and it's a different culture from the outside culture too. I will say I never felt more Nigerian when I was with Americans, but never more American than when I was with Nigerians. So it's like kind of
Yeah,
this not fitting in really
yeah,
in either place. And then when I grew up and met other first generation kids, we no matter where were from, we had a ton in common.
yeah,
So
just that
Indian,
shared
like yeah,
experience.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So you lived in California and then you tell me more about what after your youth, how did you meet your first husband and
High
from there?
school.
Okay.
High school, yes, literally high school sweethearts at 15, which is what because I
Oh,
have a 16-year-old, I cannot imagine
oh,
having a
incredible, right?
relationship. Oh my when your kids are the age you were at certain times, it's like, are you oh my gosh, like, what was I yeah, so but
Yeah.
it was, like, really, really beautiful, though, just, being in high school, like, high school sweethearts, and, actually, his dad's side is Jewish, and so he's raised in the Reform movement, and, I just fell in love with Judaism, even though when we eventually did marry, I didn't have to convert or anything like that, it's very, liberal or open form of Judaism, but I just wanted to because I just fell in love with this people who have survived so much, but still holding on to their culture and faith and tradition, and just like continue being chased around the world, like to this day, still so much going on, and still finding joy in their culture and beliefs. So I studied with a conversion coach and converted. And I did the whole ceremony in the synagogue, and I loved it. So I'm still raising the kids Jewish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in your new book, you write the sentence that really struck me. It said, I'm aware that to many, my life may seem anything from strange to blasphemous. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, well, because while I'm raising the kids Jewish, I do believe in Jesus too. Like I believe that like Jesus is like who the Bible says he is, Son of God, Messiah, and everything like that. So those two beliefs are kind of like almost again growing up in this house where there's one culture and I'm almost on the outside of it, but have you know what I mean? So I've always kind of lived this life where I feel like where I just can't um take like I'm almost like on two sides of things, I feel.
Hmm.
And it's just I've always been that way for some reason. Kind of
Yeah.
fitting in, but not really fitting in, but it's my truth. It's really what I believe.
Yeah. And how is that being a public figure,
Oh
living
gosh, it's
this sort
weird.
of strange, possibly blasphemous life? Like, do you get a lot of people who want to tell you how to live aside from, your parents and the typical
I
people?
Not a lot.
Okay.
Every now and then, but not very much. I think much like my parents, people are used to me at this point. Um, my parents, they got used to me, and I think people are used to me. But for me, it's hard because I sometimes feel self conscious. I guess I would believe like, oh, like how is this coming off? Am I offending somebody? Because
Hmm.
your beliefs can offend people. So, am I offending somebody? Am I making someone uncomfortable? And so I think about that, and I think it is some of the reason why sometimes I have times when I go away from social media and I'm distant for a while, um, because it is hard to be out there and to feel so different. I've always felt very different. So,
Yeah. And I feel like it's interesting that you say that, and I actually think it's more interesting that you said your parents accept you and like they get you now, and because when I read your work, I feel like there's just this underlying messaging of acceptance, accepting the things you cannot change, accepting the reality that we have in front of us, and do you feel like that's been a big part of your journey, that finding acceptance and accepting your own life?
yes, absolutely. And I think that's not accepting who I am and not accepting, um, gosh, life, who I am, the reality of the moment has caused a lot of problems because then it becomes, I feel like I was a runner for a long time in my life, just running rather than sitting with a moment and letting it be okay. Um, but I've gotten to a place. Well, I got there because I mean you can't run forever. I think you just get tired.
Yeah.
I've gotten to a place where now I'm just like, okay, you know this is my life. This is who I am, and I accept myself. I accept this, and there's a lot of beauty in it, and there's a lot of joy in it, and there's a lot of peace that comes from that.
Mhm. Yeah. And, even though this isn't a faith-based podcast, I am a Christian. I don't really talk a lot about faith-based and spiritual issues on the podcast. I know that a lot of the people listening are from a variety of backgrounds. But when I read your book, especially your new book, so I'm a huge fan. I love your poetry book from 2019, Dear Mother.
Thank
Your
you.
new book, though, every piece starts Dear God. But when I read those, I didn't feel like it was saying, Dear Christian God. I felt very much like, kind of like, Dear, insert, insert the spiritual piece that feels right to you. Is that how you intended it?
Well, for me, I was talking to God, like God of the Bible, God
Hmm.
of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, um, because at that point, when I wrote that book, I was just starting to come back because I left all, even though I grew up in a Christian, I left. It never, I don't know why it never it never touched me. I think because well, also there was a lot of kind of hard times in my family and a lot of now looking back on it, I know that depression and anger go hand in hand. So there was a lot of heart and poverty. My parents struggled a lot. A lot. We were on food stamps and assisted housing. The six of us, sometimes in a two-bedroom apartment, one bed. It's very difficult. They struggled, and I think just the things we went through, and then hearing about this God who loves everybody, um, but then why can't we afford Thanksgiving? And then also
Hmm.
we lived in a very in assisted housing, but the way it was very close to in Northern California, very close to a city, Mill Valley. So I went to high school with a lot of rich kids, being a very poor kid, and
Hmm.
because it was just a high school where it was a mix of kids, and also it was very near an inner city, and so seeing that and seeing some kids they have these huge mansions, and then we can barely afford groceries, and then hearing about this God, I just felt I couldn't take it in. I couldn't take it in. And so I left all of that. And so when I was making my way back, when I started, well, God found me. I didn't. He came to me about 4 or 5 years ago. The first thing I had to completely reestablish this relationship, and I felt like God was revealing Himself to me, um, but I was very distrusting. I was holding myself, and it's almost like this. Who are you? So when I was writing, dear God, at that point I did believe that there was God because I know that He had saved me from things, and I felt His love, but I was still almost like I was still like who I almost felt like a detective. Like, who are you?
Hmm.
I want to know you, but can I trust you? Because I didn't, my childhood was so hard. So can I trust you? Do you love me? What does your love look like? So
Yeah.
yeah, that's probably why it feels so different from um, how maybe God is talked about in established religious circles.
We're going to pause for a quick 2-minute word from today's sponsor. The first sponsor for today is KiwiCo. Summer adventures can turn into a lifelong love of learning, especially when the whole family shares the joy and excitement of discovery. KiwiCo delivers monthly crates of science and art projects for kids of all ages and kids at heart. They include everything you need to complete each project, so you can bring it wherever summer takes you. Each crate is seriously fun exploration of science, technology, engineering, math, or art. My kids recently completed the oil and chemistry box, which my daughter loved so much that I found she hid the oil and water and food coloring in her bedroom for a little late night science rendezvous. But if you haven't tried KiwiCo, definitely check it out. Pack summer full of memorable discoveries with KiwiCo. Get 50% off your first month plus free shipping on any crate line with the code SIMPLE at kiwico.com. That's 50% off your first month at kiwico.com, promo code SIMPLE. Our second sponsor today is Hellofresh. With Hellofresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. You can skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. If you're going away this summer, update your delivery address and enjoy HelloFresh at your vacation destination with just a click. We've done this several times with Airbnbs, and it has made eating on vacation easier and healthier. So go to hellofresh.com/simple16 and use the code SIMPLE16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. Go to hellofresh.com/simple16 and use the code SIMPLE16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. You're going to get foolproof, step-by-step recipes to make a more joyful cooking experience and a stress-free summer. Okay, maybe I should be realistic and say lower stress summer. Thanks so much for supporting our sponsors. Back to my chat with Bunmi. I pulled out a few of my favorite pieces from both of my favorite books of yours, and I wanted to read a few and just hear your reflections on them, and maybe share a few of my own and what they've meant to me.
Oh, thank you.
So the first, I'll start with probably my favorite. It's taken many years, but I think I finally love you enough to let you be you.
Oh gosh. It's almost like, when you're in a relationship with someone, you have to allow for like discovery, I guess, rather than
Hmm.
projecting your needs and your biases on them. And so that was
Yeah.
a very as a moment where I think I felt enough safety to be like, okay, I'm gonna let you be you. It feels safe enough for that.
Yeah. How about as a mother? Do you feel like that's been a struggle, letting your kids be themselves?
Yes, it has been for me.
For me too.
It is. Oh man, it is because when they're babies, you just have this baby mommy relationship, It's almost like
Mhm.
they're like, especially when they're attached literally to your body, nursing, they're an extension of you in a certain way.
Yeah.
And then it becomes okay, they need you, they still need you a ton, but they're walking and you have this role where you're helping them and you're being there for them and you're this mama bird, come under my wing. And then as they grow and they grow, sometimes they grow in unsavory ways. Sometimes they slap you in the face, in a grocery store at 5 p.m. in front of aisles of people.
Yeah.
um, or sometimes they're just exhibiting a behavior that triggers you in some way, because of something unresolved in you. Or sometimes they're going in a direction that's just is unknown, you don't understand, and feels scary. Oh, that's yes.
Yeah.
It has been hard, the letting go, and prayer has been a big part of how I
Yeah.
manage that. And sometimes I feel God just telling me, just the thing He tells me though is just calm, quiet. It's okay. Say
Yeah.
less. Say less. you know.
Yeah. And I feel like in those early years, we we build up these expectations and these
Yes.
idealizations of what parenthood's going to be like, what our kids are going to be like, and then
Mm.
it never turns out that way.
It's
So,
not. It's
yeah.
not. It's so different. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. It's hard, but it is beautiful. And the pictures that we have in our mind of I'm gonna be this mom, wearing flowy skirts, but I'm also gonna have this business, and it's gonna be so easy. I'm gonna come home and like make this rotisserie chicken meal, and just like this idea of I don't even know where we gather all these bits and pieces from Laura Ingalls
Yeah.
Wilder,
Yep.
from like super moms
Flower
we've
crowns and
seen.
all.
Flower
Yeah.
crowns. We're gonna be at the park every afternoon, and then gonna take a conference call while they nap. It's gonna be so perfect
Yeah.
like that, right?
Uh-huh.
Like,
Yep. Yep.
and then it's just, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're actually reading your novel for our in the Simple Families community. We have a little book club, and we're reading your novel, "Confessions of a Domestic Failure." Is that
Oh,
the title of it? We're
yes.
just about to start it, but I'm really excited because
Oh
I
my
feel like it
goodness.
speaks to all of those things you just said.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so honored by that. Oh, that book, I wrote that book, writing it from what I wish I'd had to read as a first time mom, just like sitting
Yeah.
on the floor with your baby on one of those endless afternoons. Those afternoons that just
Oh
with a
yeah.
baby, the baby, it's like you're lonely, but you're not alone. Like, and
Right.
like,
And you're bored, but you're afraid to admit that you're
oh my
bored.
gosh, you're so bored, but you're also in this like what they call it is soak it up. Everyone's like soak it up. It
Yeah.
passes so fast. Soak it up. You're so bored, and now it's like who even am I? And I
Yeah.
wrote that book just wishing I'd had something to read that made me feel okay with that time.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited. I haven't read it yet, but that's on
Oh,
my next to read list.
oh man.
Um So, okay, so moving on to the next quote that I pulled from yours. You wrote, "The world doesn't deserve you, child, but it needs you. Shine, burn it down, build something better."
I just so often, gosh, as a mom, you look at the world and it's like, what did I bring my kid into?
Yeah.
Especially now. I mean, come on, the things that we've been through, the things that we've survived over the past couple of years, and even looking forward now is scary. Like, it's not like we've come out and like, oh, yay, let's all hold hands. Even things that are happening with shortages and all of that, and strife everywhere, and the things that kids just go through it in school and home. And I'm like, but I know at the same time that they're here for a reason. They're here for a reason. This reason is bigger than even the relationship with me and their family. They have a purpose. And at the end of the day, with kind of everything in parenting, I just want each of these kids to go out and just like burn it down, like in the good way,
Yeah.
just take all of that light that's inside of them and just like let it just erupt and let it change the environment around them, the little world they live in, maybe even the bigger world, and just do beautiful and loving and kind things, and just bring kindness and sweetness and their uniqueness out there.
Yeah. I feel like there's so much fear around what is going to come of the next generation.
Yes.
And that with the impact of, this ever-changing world.
Yes.
And but I mean, I also feel hopeful, right?
Me
Do we
too.
having a older than 15-year-old. How do you feel? Do you feel hopeful about the next generation?
Oh, I do. People have a lot to say about teenagers and, just that general, oh, teenagers, like,
Yeah.
get off my lawn, thing we all grew up
Yeah.
with. But they are so lovely. They really are. I mean, gosh, I think they're better than us. I just think they keep getting better. They're
Yeah.
so kind. And yes, I think, I think it's more of the preteens who go through this little like mean, where they have these little like fights. They call them chicans here, and kind of little like scuffles. But like as they grow, I'm just seeing these teenagers, and yes, they're people. I don't want to romanticize, idealize, but they're so sensitive to each other, and like they know a lot too, and their
Yeah.
BSO meter is just through the roof. Like you can't
Yeah.
pretend with them. So I do feel a lot of hope. I do worry about them too because they have been through so much and they've seen so much, and I worry that they feel disenfranchised or that they're inheriting something broken. But
Yeah.
at the same time, they just are so beautiful.
Yeah. I feel like when I was a teenager, I was just kind of blind to the world around me. I was very self absorbed. But I feel like this generation, especially the teenagers now, are not. I feel like they're very tuned into the world around them.
They are. I don't know if it's like, I guess it's the internet probably.
Hmm.
They really know what's going on. They know that they're not even digesting news in the same way. We watched the news and took it, okay, that's the truth. Everything, everything's the truth. And they're just dissecting things and they're researching things there and they're gosh, and they know about mental health issues. They just know a lot and they're aware of a lot. And I think it's a double-edged sword. I worry, do they miss out because we really lived in this bubble we did when we were
Yeah.
as teens, and they live in a completely different mental, emotional, spiritual landscape. But I think they're doing okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like there's hope that every year it's going to get a little better now that we're
Yes,
hopefully on the other side of the pandemic
yes.
and the teenagers who I think have suffered, I don't know, maybe more than
Oh,
most in their inability to socialize and to spread their wings, which they should
yes,
be doing at this time. So it's hopeful.
yes. Me too. I'm hopeful too.
Yeah. So here's another one. Dear God, I wasn't there when you gave her that attitude, that spice, that fight. I know it was for a good reason. There are battles she'll need these weapons to win. But in the meantime, help.
Yes. Oh, when I wrote that, I was writing it about my second born, but really it applies to all of them because they
Yeah.
all have every child has something that like just grates, like you like
Yeah.
that pushes up against you. That push up
Yeah.
against you thing where it's like, okay, I gave birth to you, but you're fighting me. Like whether it's physically because you have a toddler or mentally or emotionally, it gets to a point where your kid is fighting you and you're just like, I want to love you. I'm here to help you. Like
Yeah.
we're not and what oh man, and what I just feel like what I God has really spoken to me and what we've all learned, no matter what your beliefs are, is they need that. They um I've heard it said that a baby bird, when they're kind of pecking out of the shell, that they need to do that action as part of like strengthening and like circulatory whatever. It's part of it, and sometimes they're pecking through the shell of our mental reserves,
Yes.
and but they
Yeah.
need they need to be strong, strengthen themselves, and they need that spice. Even though
Yeah.
it burns our tongues. It burns our tongues, but
Yeah. But
it's
it's
they need it.
the safe
Yes,
place to explore it
it
at
is
home.
because we love them. We love
Yeah.
them.
It's hard to hold space for these spicy kids though, right? The ones that
Oh,
are really spicy, but also you know that that spice is going to serve them well.
oh, you know it. The extra
Yeah.
spicy ones, the extra spicy flavor. No one's gonna be leading them off anywhere. And they're not gonna be led. They're gonna be the ones in the front of the line, being like, okay, everybody, fall in
Yeah.
line here. I'm in charge,
Yeah.
kind of a thing. It's
Yeah, and I think we suffer from this kind of the grass is always greener phenomena as parents where it's like you wish you had a kid that would just listen and just get in line and do what they're
yeah.
supposed to do. And then when you have that kid, they're like, I wish I had a kid that just would just step outside the box and take more risks. And right. Like it's
Yes.
always like
Yes.
there's I feel like that yearning. And Yeah, it's just kind of that acceptance of they're all going to have their place in the world.
Yes, they are, because each I have both of those, and for one, I'm saying, "Come on, you gotta try this. It's not gonna just try to, how can I help you feel safe?" And for the other one, I'm like, "Can you please look before you leap? Like, I need you to just not dive into things. So it's just please think about things before you." So it's like you're
Yeah.
having the different conversations with each one. It's like, please try to live. And the other one, please just try to keep yourself alive to the other one. And
Yeah.
so either way, you're having a hard
Yes.
conversation.
Well, and you're balancing it co-parenting with your now ex-husband, right?
Yes.
Can you speak at all to that to anyone out there that is on that journey where they're trying
Oh,
to figure
I
out the
would love
co-parenting
to.
relationship? Any words of
Yes.
wisdom?
Oh man, I would say one, it gets a lot easier. If you're in the beginning stages of that where emotions are like running hot and you're like, trying to figure out this new life from ashes of your dreams. It's very hard there. Have grace for yourself. Have grace for your kids. Grace for just everything. Order as many pizzas as it take. You don't need, um life happens. It really does. Let go of any guilt. Life just happens. um I the second thing is that it gets easier as you make the kids the the focus and the priority. And I know we have to work on ourselves, of course, and heal in the backgrounds. But as the focus like becomes on, okay, what do the kids need? Um, I don't know. It really just takes the sting. I think out of everyday life.
Mhm.
Right now, it's been so many years, and we did meet at 15, so we're kind of like siblings in a sense. Like we don't we just understand each other really well. And he's my family no matter what. It's always going to be my family. And gosh, I'm grateful. I'm just really grateful that through all of this we can have that kind of relationship. I know it's different for each person. It depends. I know sometimes there's
Mhm.
abuse or substance abuse, things like that, so it's different for everybody. um, but rebuilding your support system is important too. So finding people that can come in and be your family where it feels like there are holes is important.
Mm.
So do what you
Yes.
can. Big hugs.
Yeah. Yeah. So the last quote that I'm going to have you speak to is it even dinner if nobody poops?
Oh my
I
gosh.
don't know why I related to that so much. It's like just when
Yes.
everything is going the
Yes.
way you feel like it should be in the storybook or on the Instagram post, like then
Yes.
somebody poops.
Somebody poops. Yes, we're finally oh my gosh, it just like brings me back because we're finally like out of my youngest is almost 9, so
Yeah.
we're finally like out of that. But it's funny now it's like, okay, I'm making dinner and like someone says like, I'm gonna take a shower. I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like
Right.
I just put dinner and then you want to take a shower? So it's always gonna be something. If it's not poop, it's gonna be something.
Right.
But oh my gosh, I just like brought me back to those days. It's like you're at the table. You're hungry. You're hungry too. Imagine that. You have physical needs. You're hungry. And then you got to go help somebody.
Right.
If you haven't helped a child in the bathroom with food in like you're chewing and you're like trying to swallow and you're just like and you got to go back to the table and
Right.
try to like bring back that appetite. It's really, I mean, honestly, this is harassment. This is harassment. Motherhood is
Right.
harassment. We somebody needs to be charged. This is not right. But
Right.
it's what it is. It's not right. I'm here to tell people that this is not right, but it's happening to us. It's
Right.
happening. Their bodies just
And
know. They're like, "Oh, new food. Let's get rid of the old one. Okay, you mother, you're gonna come. We're doing this
right.
together. I need
Right
you.
now.
I need you in here immediately." And you sit back to the meatloaf, and you're just like, I mean, I'm hungry enough to eat, but it could have been better. Like it could have.
Right. Hence the subtitle of Dear Mother, Poems on the Hot Mess of Motherhood.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is. It's so it's a beautiful mess, but it is so just it's wild. It's
Yeah.
completely wild.
So, what do you think is next for you? You've got this new book
Yes.
coming out. Anything else in the works?
Oh, yes. Okay, so I'm always writing, even though it's like mom version of author. For me, it's like writing in like the edges of the corners of the days, and sometimes I'm just too like frazzled to write. But I really want to. I have some children's books on my mind. I really want to write books for kids on the spectrum, kids ADHD. Um, I know that life very well, and I just so I have some books that I'm thinking about. Also, I'm working on a
Yeah.
book called "The Samaritan Woman's Diary," about the Samaritan woman and just kind of imagining her life before, because I know how it feels to come out of brokenness, and
Yeah.
and and how how it can kind of change how well it does change how you view yourself, view the world, view yourself in the world. So
Is
yes,
that a
always
novel?
writing. It is.
Oh,
It is.
exciting.
Oh, I'm so excited about that one.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. It's been
Thank
great chatting with you.
you. It's been amazing talking to you. Thank you for having me here.
Thanks so much for tuning in. If you want the links to get in touch with Boomy or to pick up one of her books, go to simplefamilies.com/episode 312. As always, thanks for tuning in, and I ask you please kindly take a minute and leave a rating or review for this show. That helps the show to reach more people. I appreciate you. Have a good one.